What's happening, everybody? Welcome into a brand new Phightin Words. Anthony SanFilippo is here. I'm Bob Wankel. It's an afternoon edition of Phightin Words. Some scheduling conflicts earlier in the day. I apologize for the delay here in the show. I know people are fired up after the Phillies took 2 out of 3 games against the New York Mets, and this is what everybody wanted to see, right? Are you not entertained? I'll buy into the Phillies. I'll believe when they play and beat the Mets, and that's exactly what the Phillies did this weekend, Anthony, and here we are. Phillies are 1.5 game behind the Dodgers in the National League for best record, and they're, a game and a half behind the Tigers. Do you buy into the Phillies after they won 2 out of 3 this weekend?
I buy into them no more or no less than I did prior to the weekend.
Yeah.
Seriously. I'm the same. I'm in the same place today that I was Friday, that I was last week, that I was a month ago. That this is a very good baseball team amongst the 6 best in baseball. They'll have a chance at doing something special in October, but they have flaws just like everybody else does. And those flaws could ultimately come back to get them at some point. That's where I am on the field. Good weekend. I'm not trying to diminish winning 2 out of 3 against the Mets. I mean, that's a good weekend. But it is just a June series. It's just a June weekend. I feel like it was the Phillies took it seriously, like really seriously. And what I mean by that was it on Sunday night, it was 5-0. And I think it was the 8th inning or bottom of the 7th. It was bottom of the 7th. And I look out to the bullpen and they got Kerkering warming up. And I'm sitting there saying, you're really going to bring in a Ryan Kerkering in a 5-0 game?
Yeah. And
the notion, then the thought hit me is like, yeah, they want to send a message. They want to bury this team. And that's why. Now, obviously, Kerkering doesn't come in because they get up 6-0, 7-0. I know Luzardo comes in, gives up the homer to Lindor, but that was evident that the Phillies wanted to come away with not only just a series win, but an emphatic series win.
There's no question about it, and it was a good weekend. I think there were a lot of positives, and I guess where I'd want to start with you today, you covered all 3 games. You were down there all three nights. What, if anything, because I'm like you, this is a good team. Starting rotation's very good. We know some of the deficiencies. Not much has changed about my overall perception of the team from 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago or 4 weeks ago when they've just been on a total roller coaster. At their highest points, their lowest points, my assessment all along has been basically like it's a playoff team. It has work to do if they want to be a championship contender. Are they going to do it? Stay tuned. They just happen to be better positioned in the National League East and in overall right now. And while Bryce Harper's out, especially, it's important to stack these wins, buy yourself some time. You have a difficult road trip coming up here with Houston and going down to Atlanta. Obviously, the Braves continue to struggle, didn't play well against the Marlins this weekend, but it's still a tough place to play. Phillies struggled down there, obviously, at times. They're in a good spot. They have work to do. And 2 out of 3 against the Mets, one way or the other, doesn't really change my opinion of that. But what, if anything, this weekend stood out to you where you say, that is important for this team? Maybe I feel a little bit more confident about a certain facet of it. Or, was there anything? I mean, and really, am I just setting you up to say, Jesus Luzardo?
Well, we'll get to Luzardo in a second. The only other thing I would say that, because, I think highly of Luzardo, but I would think that the only other thing to answer your question that kind of stood out to me, I was like, okay, was how they hit against David Peterson with that lineup. Because if you look at that lineup at the beginning of the day and you're like, this is really a lineup that you're going to trot out with first place on the line against the Mets.
Yeah.
And then they went out and did it, right? Edmundo Sosa had a really good game.
Talk about that.
I know, yeah. Castellanos had 2 more hits. Schwarber, who, has been struggling of late, hits a homer off of a lefty, which doesn't usually happen against David Peterson. I know Schwarber has hit more homers off lefties this year than anybody else in baseball. But, there were things about it like, okay, the Phillies have not been a great team against left-handed pitching this year. And this was an emphatic performance against a left-handed pitcher. And so, if I'm looking for a takeaway from the weekend, that stood out to me probably more than anything else.
Yeah, you mentioned the lineup and the bottom of it, especially. Sosa gets a rare start, makes the most of it last night. But up until last night, he had really been scuffling. Got off to the great start first couple weeks. And after that, it had been pretty much zeros. It had been ugly for him. And so it was a big spot for him to come up and have a 3-hit game and obviously have the huge home run. And then he back it up with the Buddy Kennedys and the Johan Rojas's of the world. And he said it like their deployment of the bullpen and having Kirkering up in a 5-0 game in the 7th inning, that's aggressive. The lineup before the game didn't exactly scream aggressive in terms of nailing down that win, but it worked out for them, and it was an impressive victory nonetheless. I guess let's talk about Mundo Sosa. So he gets picked off at second base last night, and I got the old takes exposed thing, and I tweet out, and I'll read this verbatim. After he got picked off, I said not typically how it works, but I would consider benching Sosa after that. And I didn't say I would bench him. I didn't say you had to bench him. I didn't say like the inmates are running the asylum if Rob Thompson doesn't do anything about it. But, this team has not been great on the base pass. It's a 0-0 game. You have an opportunity to kind of draw first blood. It's a horrible base running mistake by Mundo Sosa. And I know that he's not that guy. And that's kind of why I worded it the way I did. And he's a guy that's a high energy guy, wants to win. He's fired up, but that can't happen. Like, that can't happen. And obviously they don't bench him. And then he goes off and hits the big home run. And I get all the people that are like, see, old takes exposed. And, good thing you're not the manager. And I'm like, yeah, I know. I hear you. What were your thoughts about his game last night? What were your thoughts about my tweet other than being on an all-time mush run right now?
You absolutely are on an all-time.
Just so everyone knows, like I have a conversation going with Anthony during the games a lot of times, just because my wife doesn't care. My friends are like, we don't want to hear you. So like Anthony will usually entertain me and he'll respond. And sometimes we bring in Tim Kelly too, and it's like the three of us, and I'll deliver a take, and within like 13 minutes, it's debunked. It's like immediately wrong. I'm like, man, this guy's really struggling. He could buy. He desperately needs a hit. Hit double gap. So there's I've been like on an unprecedented run with this right now, and so then I take it public last night, and boom. What was your read on all of that?
So look, I don't necessarily know if I'm thinking about benching Edmundo Sosa in that spot for the sole purpose that he's not a guy who consistently makes those kinds of mistakes.
I agree. Yeah.
And because of that, it's like, okay, it can't happen in that spot, but you have to take the case by case basis, right? If that's Johan Rojas, who is constantly getting into trouble on the base paths, nearly got picked off on a play that he had no business overrunning second base as far as he did. I'm
trying to take a breather on him,
Yeah, but but if it is that, that's a different story. Because there's a guy who doesn't have great baseball IQ. I think Sosa does have a better baseball IQ. And so because of that, I say, okay, was a little over exuberant on his lead there. Probably wasn't as aware as he needed to be. Doesn't make it an excuse, but it also is why I say I'm not taking him out of the game at that point. But I understand why you would feel that way. At that point in the game, it's 0-0. You're struggling to get any offense going against Peterson, and you got 2 runners on base and nobody out. And it's like, okay, yeah, the lead runner's in scoring position here. Let's just don't be stupid. Get the runners over. Get at least one of them home. Get a lead for your pitcher, and then they weren't able to even do that. That to me is why it was so frustrating.
Well, obviously, it's a great thing that they didn't take him out. He's the difference maker. He propels them to with the big 3-run homer. And I guess my thing though is like the result or what he did thereafter isn't really what I'm talking about. Like whether or not it wasn't about, well, I don't like him as a matchup, later in the game. It's like this mistake happened. How would you handle it? And I'm going to defend myself here a little bit. Had he not hit a 3-run home run, which is what had nothing to do with my tweet, this would have been the thing. It would have been, that's a huge mistake. This team's stupid. This is what they do. You can't have that happen. They lost the game. Is Rob going to hold these guys accountable? Like that's the storyline. So yes, it's great that he hit the home run. I don't think it really has anything to do with what I tweeted, to be honest with you. All right.
Here you go, Bob, from Ryan. The worst part of his weekend was that you infected his Twitter algorithm with the Barstool Mets account.
Yeah, well, somebody was like, "You're just jealous that you don't have that type of following." And like, I'll be honest with you, he might be a good guy. Like a lot of people were saying that. Oh, Frank's a legend. He's the man. He's a great guy. He might be. I'm not saying he's a bad dude. I just don't like his content. Like I don't get it. And oh, you're not as big as Frank Fleming. So okay, yeah, I'm not. It's fine. I'm not trying to be. I don't need like 400,000 Twitter followers. I just like to do a baseball show with my friend. I'm not looking to become like a celebrity or anything like that. I think that guy's content stinks. And I think it's disingenuous too. I think once upon a time, like that's probably how he was. And then he got a camera and got an audience. And now it's like, man, you don't really believe that, do you? Like you're game out of first place. It's okay. It'll be all right.
Yeah.
Whatever though. Okay.
I'm not as convinced it's going to be all right for that team. But
yeah, you're out, right? Was that the night the Phillies pass him and never look back?
I don't know, man. The Mets pitching is not good right now. It just really isn't. And you think the Phillies have bullpen problems? Look at the Mets, and look at what they're going through right now. And they're sending guys in and out. They just sent down.
I see they made a series of roster moves here a little while ago.
Sent down.
Be on the lookout for left-handed pitcher Dickie Lovelady.
Yeah. Richard Lovelady got added, Mr. 5.6 ERA for his career, is because they needed another lefty in the
Travis
bullpen.
Jankowski sighting coming your way.
Yeah, Janko from Lanco is back in the big leagues. He's going to be on the Mets. Acuna goes out. They sent
Siri to the 60-day.
The catcher down. No, but they sent the Alvarez. They sent him down after the game the other night. They're kind of going through it a little bit right now and looking for answers. And that the lineup after the fourth guy in the lineup is not that good, and the pitching staff is a mess right now. Which brings this question up, Bob, and I don't agree with Chris, but I'm going to bring it up on the stream because it's at least I can see where he's coming from. He says, if I say that I see that the Braves presenting a greater challenge in the division for the Phillies in the second half of the season, you say
if they get some of their players who are their guys and they start performing, maybe. I mean, look, I saw a tweet earlier, and I'm going to pull this up. Here you go. Michael Harris's 57 WRC plus ranks 207 out of 211 players with at least 200 plate appearances. Nick Allen's ranks 203rd, and Ozzie Albies ranks 189th. That means 1/3 of the Braves' everyday players rank among the bottom 10% in offensive production of players with at least 200 plate appearances this season. These are guys that you expect to perform. Like you expect Ozzie Albies to be a killer. You expect more out of Ozuna. You expect more out of Olsen, who I think has kind of had a pretty underwhelming year. Certainly Acuna has been excellent since he returned. Strider hasn't quite been Strider. Like, do these guys come back and be what you expect them to be? And if they do, then yeah, it could get interesting, but they have such a far gap to cover here. And they're so inconsistent. Like you thought maybe last week, here you go. There's a sweep. They sweep the Mets. They got a dramatic win at the beginning of that series. Sale was really good. They carry it over. Look at this. Here they come. And then they go down to Florida this weekend and they lose 2 out of 3. I mean, come on. So I'm not buying them either. I'm not sitting here and telling you the Phillies are going to dust both of these teams and win the division by 10 games. I don't believe that. I still have a lot of respect for the Mets and their pitching lab or whatever the hell they have going on. But I do recognize that they're obviously starting to thin out a little bit, and it's had an impact on their performance.
No, I agree, and I'm right there with you. I wouldn't side with Chris on this and say that the Braves are going to be a greater challenge, but I can see where he's coming from at least, because I do think that the Mets are leaking some oil, and I'm not sure. Look, I think that do I think the Mets are going to go out and make some moves at the deadline too to bolster that team? I do. I'm not saying the Mets are done and they're not, going to be part of the playoffs. So they're still a playoff team in my mind. I just think that there's a lot more to fix there than maybe they thought at the beginning of the season. And that's I've been on that train since day one.
You have.
I just look at the names and I look at the players. And I sit there and go, okay, look, one of these guys here and there could come out and have a career year and you're not expecting it, but to expect all of these guys to do it at the same time is where I was like, no, I don't. I think that's where the Mets are going to take a step back. So anyway,
right now, if I put in front of you, I handed you a betting app and I said you could take the Phillies at minus 135 to win the division or the Mets at plus 110, which team would you take?
Phillies.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. I mean, I know it's better odds for the Mets, and the Mets do have a slightly easier schedule going forward than the Phillies do the rest of the way.
This is a tough week for the Phillies.
It's a tough not just a week.
It's a tough stretch in general, but I'm just going 1 week at a time.
Yeah. No, there's no question. There's no question it's tough. And I don't know. I mean, are these righties going to hit again twice against the Astros because the Astros thrown 2 lefties against them? We'll see. We'll see how that plays out. But
all right. Well, there are a few things I want to get to here, and a lot of it has to do with the home run, actually. First of all, giving them up. Let's go back to Saturday night. Mick Abel. By the way, if you pay attention to betting odds, the red flag should have been flying on Saturday. Woke up, the Phillies were a slight favorite in that game on Saturday morning. By the time first pitch rolled around, the Mets were like minus 125 to minus 130 at most sports books. So the money had totally flipped throughout the day. They were due. Mets are a decent team. They had lost a ton of games consecutively. Mick Abel is not going to be a shutdown guy at this point in his career. It was a good spot for the Mets, and you kind of saw it unfold that way. And you and I were going back and forth, and I said, I don't love this tonight. I don't love this matchup. And you said, I don't think he's going to get through 5, and he did not. And he did not because he gave up 6 hits, and 4 of them were home runs. And now this has become a problem. I guess, what did you see from Mick Abel the other night? I saw a guy that could not command his fastball.
Correct.
He's missing up, and he's missing fat up, and he's not able to consistently keep it down. And you can go up top, but you got to execute it when you go up top.
And that's I'm glad you say it that way, because the game plan was for him to go up. Like they wanted, that was their game plan. They were trying to get the Mets out on aggressive swings up in the zone or above the zone. He just didn't get it up high enough, and as it turned out, like, he got rocked. So like he takes responsibility for that, and good on him for doing that. And he didn't seem like a guy that was, all in his own head after the game. I think we talked to him, and you could tell it was frustrating, but at the same time, I don't think it was one of those ones where he's going to go home and revisit pitch by pitch why it didn't work for him. You know what I'm saying?
Do you see a young pitcher who probably is just not going to be particularly effective, but is not a terrible stopgap solution as a 5th starter? Do you see a guy that's touching 98 and throwing 97 consistently with it and can snap off a decent curveball here and there and is kind of like a pitch away from being a pretty good starting pitcher? Like, what do you see? Because I don't know what I see, but I kind of feel like I do not see a long-term solution in the rotation being Mick Abel, at least. And when I say long-term, I mean this year. Like, I don't think we're destined for many more Mick Abel starts. I think we get to July, back half of July, and I think that's it. Whether or not they convert him to a reliever at that point, whether they trade him, I don't know what they're going to do, but I think that I don't want to say we got carried away. I don't think anyone really got carried away. I don't think anybody thought that Mick Abel is all of a sudden like staff ace. I see a guy that's kind of interesting, and he's in a tough spot, and he battles, and I think he's going to give you some good starts and some bad starts. I think what you've seen from him is exactly what you're going to get.
Yeah.
I see this comment here from Steve T about the tipping. Like, look, I'm not totally convinced that all of Jesus Luzardo's issues were about, tipping. I guess they got there and that became the story. I think that was part of it, maybe. I didn't see that at all the other night. I actually saw the Pitching Ninja video, and I think he's great. I don't know, man. I didn't see that.
Yeah, I didn't even know what he was highlighting in the tipping there. I was looking at it, I was like, what are we looking at here? I've had an issue with Mick Abel as far as being a length guy for a long time. Obviously he's got good stuff. It does play in the major leagues. But I always looked at it and said, even if he sticks as a starter. I'm not sure he's more than 5 and dive, right? Like I kind of think that's what he is in that role. Do I think he's got the stuff to translate to a bullpen role? I do. In fact, I think it really is something intriguing to the Phillies to think about because, when you're throwing that hard and you do tend to keep the ball down, like you can be really, really effective out of the bullpen. I don't think they want to put that out into the world prior to July 31. But if he's still here after July 31, I would not be surprised if that's what he's converted to. As far as how much time's left, Bob?
Well, okay, so let me ask it to you this way. Do you think that they will continue to pitch him out of the rotation because that is where they're going to show the most value to potential trade partners? Like, is that part of the consideration here? It's not just, and he's done a fine job. I'm not saying that on merit he should be bumped out of the rotation. So let me just say that. But is him sticking around through July 31st in the rotation more about we don't want to diminish his value? And in the same breath, if you are going to turn to him as a potential solution to this bullpen fiasco, wouldn't you want to kind of know what he's able to do in that role prior to the deadline? Like, don't you run some risk saying, okay, the deadline has now passed us by. Let's begin this experiment. Or is there enough in his game that you can just say, I don't need to see it play out. I just know we just feel it's going to work. We don't need to see it. How do you massage all these things?
Yeah, that's a good question. And I was going to say that I feel like Mick Abel's leash as a starter, at least for now, is much shorter than maybe people think. And I find it really intriguing that they're keeping Abel and Painter pitching on the same days. I know Painter didn't have a great outing. He was a little all over the place. I mean, he only gave up 2 runs.
Yeah, 4 walks. He got out of a bases loaded jam in the 5th inning, his final inning, to kind of limit the damage there, which there's something to be said for that. But it hasn't been lights out, smooth. Wow, he's ready to go. Why aren't they bringing him up? What more does he need to show? You know how that happens with prospects. What more can he show you? Well, the answer is quite a bit, actually.
Yeah, but I find it interesting that that's still the case. And I also find it interesting, even though we had Noah on last week and he said that, it's going to take him a while to ramp back up. He threw in the cage this weekend. He's going to throw on flat ground in Houston tomorrow. And I'm wondering if they're looking at it saying, hey, maybe we can get him back sooner because neither of them, like Abel, we're not 100% confident in, and Painter just might be not ready yet.
What did you make of the comments over the weekend? I know you guys at On Pattison had the story, we're going to make him earn the promotion was the gist of what was said. Is that sending a message to him that you're not earning it? Is it so that he doesn't arrive and look overly pampered by the organization? Like, what did you make of those comments? Like, why would that get said? Did you read anything deeper into it?
No, I looked at it as saying, even though there was a plan for this guy, the plan still requires him to be pitching well. Like, he's not going to just go down there, kind of meander through a dozen starts and be like, all right, call me up. It's July. Like, I think they want that. I think the last box to be checked for Andrew Painter is to have a dominant performance at the AAA level. And when I mean dominant, I don't just mean like a 3-inning short outing. I mean, go out there, throw 90 out 100 to 100 pitches, shut a team down that they can't touch you, and just go out there and shove, right? And I think that's the thing that they want to see. He just hasn't quite given them that. He's been good. I don't want to diminish what he's done. He's been very good at AAA, but he hasn't been to the point where it's like he's too good for AAA, right? I mean, and I think a lot of times that's what you need it to be. So in the interim, what do you do? I mean, there's always the possibility that they could call up somebody else to make a spot start or whatever the case might be. and if they don't feel Painter's ready. But yeah, I don't think Mick Abel gets many more starts. I think it was last week's episode when I said they're going to reassess after the next 2 starts. He's going to start against the Mets. He's going to start against the Braves. Well, the Mets start was not a good one. No. So now he's going to start against the Braves. Actually, originally he was supposed to start against Houston. He's getting pushed back a day to start against the Braves. Let's see what that looks like. And then if he struggles again in Atlanta, then I think there's a conversation of, do we put somebody else in that spot in the rotation?
It's interesting. It's one of these things where it is still like a luxury almost. What you're looking at, you're talking about the 5th starter. It's not like it's been a disaster. He's given them some good starts. They have obviously a really intriguing option in Andrew Painter waiting, potentially knocking on the door. And then, oh, by the way, you have Aaron Nola, who you're, highly invested in and has a pedigree and has had success. And they have options. I don't think this is the thing that prevents them from winning the World Series or anything like that. But it is something to kind of keep an eye on. And it's really important because you want to get that spot solidified. You want to know what you have in Mick Abel in 25. Like, what role does he fill? And is that to get a player here? Is that to patch up a hole in the bullpen? Like, what is it with Mick Abel? And then beyond that, there's just a lot of moving parts in that situation. And that's why, to me, like, a lot of times I don't go crazy about the 26-man roster and roster configuration. But in this particular instance, I think it's probably the most fascinating story in real time with this team. Now, Mick Abel gave up a lot of home runs the other night. The Phillies have not really hit a ton of home runs. Certainly Sosa last night, Schwarber, they have a multi-home run game. That's nice. Of the 30 teams right now, the Phillies are 16th in home runs per game, 1.06, 16th out of 30. So, league average-ish. I guess my question to you is, the Phillies seem to think that they have more pop and that they're going to hit more home runs in the second half of the season. Do you agree with that assessment?
Well, yes, I do think that they will hit more home runs in the second half than they hit in the first half, just because it's the nature of the time of year, right? Do I firmly believe that they're suddenly going to turn into a bunch of 20-plus home run guys and Schwarber's hitting 50? No, I don't. I think a couple guys have a chance.
Can we play a game? Can we play a game real quick?
Yeah, let's do it. I love games.
So what are we, 70, 78 games into the season?
Yes.
So for the sake of argument, let's just say that we're at the midway point. Just keep the math easy here. Will this player, and we'll fill it in one by one, will this player exceed or fail to exceed his home run total in the first half, in the second half? Kyle Schwarber, is he hitting more than 24 home runs in the second half of the season?
Yes.
Ooh, is he going to hit 50 home runs?
Yes.
Oh, Bryce Harper, 9.
Yes, because he'll play more.
Okay. Do you think that Bryce Harper comes back and looks like Bryce Harper, or do you think he comes back and hits 258 with a 368 on base percentage, and we can sit here and say this is a useful baseball player, but he's not an impactful one the way that we expect him to be?
That's a great question. I mean, it really depends on.
I know you could do an entire show on that question, but
it really depends on how his wrist reacts, right? I mean, are they going to give him a day off here and there to try and make sure that it doesn't flare up or whatever? Like this is.
Should we take everything with him and the Phillies and the way it's been messaged by management at face value, which is he's cleared? It's when he's comfortable. Is it really that simple? And he's just saying, I'm not comfortable yet. Like, is that the story here? Are they internally frustrated with him, or is there any of that going on?
No, I don't think so at all. I think that it's more. I think that there was a time when a player would maybe try and play through this a little bit, and he doesn't want to be anything short of a superstar level player, and he feels that it bothers him enough that he can't be to the level of his own personal expectation, and that's really what it comes down to, right? And so if you're the Phillies, you sit there and say, well, I'd rather have 75% of Bryce Harper than no Bryce Harper. Well, of course, but Bryce Harper doesn't want 75% of Bryce Harper.
Yeah.
And so that's why
I guess that's my hope, though. The fact that he's pushing this timeline and it hasn't been a rush back. I'm like, okay, maybe he feels that when he is ready, he can get back to being that guy. I hope, that's the optimistic way of looking at it. But I am holding out some hope that he looks more like a borderline MVP. I'm not saying he comes back and plays an MVP level, but somewhere in the neighborhood of it rather than just solid.
Yeah.
All right. Max Kepler, 9.
No.
Okay. Trey Turner, 9.
That's a tougher one. I'll say yes, but only slightly.
Okay. So you have Kepler not getting to 20. Harper, you have getting to 20, it sounds like, maybe.
Yeah, assuming he comes back, like sooner rather than later. Like if he's out beyond the All-Star break, then that I'd probably say no at that point.
Turner, you have an All-Star, right? At this point, in this moment?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Castellanos, 8.
Does he get to 20?
Does he get to 20?
Yes.
Okay. Alec Boehm, 7. Does he get to 15?
No.
JT Realmuto, 5.
Yes.
Oh, man. Bryson Stott, 5.
No.
And then I'll use the Marsh Rojas combo of 3.
Yes.
Yeah, I think that's probably the one where I would confidently say there's going to be a jump. I mean, that's your lineup. Those are your primary players right there. And you did a lot of pausing and sighing and marinating as you answered that. And I mean, really, if you ask me that question, I'll give Turner the benefit of the doubt and say that he exceeds that number. And granted, again, we still have another 3 games to the midway point, so these numbers aren't going to. I don't think they'll stay exactly the same. Maybe they will, but I don't see a lot of jumps here. I mean, I'll say probably Harper. I think maybe Turner. I might be with you on Castellanos, and I think that's about it.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of power on this team. Certainly Schwarber is exceptional, and he's going to offset some of these numbers. It's going to look a lot better from a team-wide perspective because of Schwarber. But this kind of brings me back to, what are you looking for at the deadline? Or do you just say this is what it is? Or do you need a guy that has a little bit more of a home run threat in his game when you consider making that offensive addition?
Who is that guy?
I don't know. I've actually been thinking about this a lot lately. This is the season where you start throwing out the names, and this is where people want to start talking about who should we target? Who are we talking about? And I think the first couple months are about the, conceptual additions. Like, what does this team need in a perfect world? Where are they weak? Where are they light? What would supplement this team so that they can go make a run? I think we all know the answers to that. Like the conceptual, the ideas, we get them. But who are these players? And I don't have an answer for you. I don't.
Well, that's the problem. Like, we still don't know who those. Yeah, conceptually, the kind of player you want, right? But without knowing who's really, really available yet, and I think we're still a couple weeks away from really knowing who's going to be made available. It's hard to answer that question.
What do you think about Duran from the Red Sox? A couple people, and a lot of the people that watch the show are the people asking me this, and I know you've been tagged in it as well. Yeah. I haven't answered because I don't have he's okay.
Yeah, I mean, he's good defensively. That would help.
Are you out on Mullins?
Yeah.
I don't think it's an ideal fit. I think it's an upgrade, but I don't think it's exactly the fit that makes this all work. So
no, I agree. I mean, look, I didn't think that Duran was as good as he was last year. I mean, he put up a phenomenal year last year. He had 48 doubles, right? I mean, 834 OPS, according to Baseball Reference, 8.7 WAR. He's not that. And he's further down this year, obviously. I also don't think he's as bad as he's been this year. So he's probably somewhere in between. Is that an upgrade over Max Kepler? Yeah, it is. It is. And you can play him in center field, and you can put, Marsh in left. And makes it a little bit better. But is that like the huge upgrade that you say, oh yeah, that's going to make this team win a championship? I'm not convinced of that.
No, I hear you. And the Phillies haven't exactly been tied to him. The name that has come up, though, is Mullins. And he's hitting 218. He has a 302 on base percentage this season. He has some pop. He has 12 home runs. So if we're talking about adding pop to the lineup, he would help solve that to an extent. But even his splits are just very strange to look at. Like, he's 16 of 53 against lefties this season. So he's not had a ton of at-bats, but he's been pretty productive against them. He's 302. He's got a 422 on base percentage, slugging 509 against left-handed pitching. And then he has almost 3 times as many at-bats against righties, but he hasn't been productive. He's hitting 192 with a 261 on base percentage against them.
Yeah.
I don't know what to make of that.
No, nor do I. And
everyone's like, well, the Orioles suck and they have a couple interesting relief arms. Yeah, let's bring back Sir Anthony Dominguez. You want to do a Mullins-Dominguez reunion? Or do you want to do Bautista?
Soto.
Bring him?
Soto.
That's the one guy that will not be back. He will not be back. I think it was a little icy on the way out the door with Gregory Soto, if I'm not mistaken. So, it's trade season. You and I have to put our heads together and start coming up with some hypotheticals. Feed the thirst. Satisfy the thirst. Soto. Yeah. No, I don't think so.
Extra like that. Yeah. No, I know we got to come up with it. I think that I still think it's a little early. We are more than a month still from the deadline. So we can't quite get there yet. I'd say, give us until after the 4th of July.
Can I just ask you about a couple fringe teams? Like, we know who's really good. So I don't need to sit here and say, do you think the Yankees are going to sell at the deadline or like the Dodgers? Yeah. Like, we know that they're not. But a team like there are some fringe teams. You said it, like what it is now. It's a lot can change between now and the deadline. But there are just so many teams that you're like, I could see it go either way, including the Red Sox, who are game over, the Blue Jays, who are 5 over, the Rays, who are 8 over. Out of like nowhere, it feels like.
We thought they stunk when they Phillies played,
and they're 8 games over. And they're right there. They're 2.5 games out of first place in the East. The Guardians are 2 over. Like, are they in? Are they out? The Royals 2 under. The Twins 3 under.
Are they in or are they out? Right now, the Guardians have a playoff spot.
That's what I'm saying. Like, but you're talking about teams 2 games over 500. They're a bad week away from being, But the American League especially is so open.
The funny thing about Baltimore is, like, everybody keeps talking about them. It's like, oh, there's a team that's going to trade, or sell. They're going to be sellers.
If they had like 10 good days, they could be right on the doorstep.
They're 6.5 games out of a playoff spot right now. The Phillies made up 5.5 games in 6 days, right? Okay. Baltimore has got the talent there that they could get back into this race.
Offensively.
Yes. Yeah. They don't have the pitching. But maybe what I'm saying is maybe Baltimore looks at it and goes, hey, let's trade for some pitching and take a run at this.
Yeah.
Like, really? So I'm not even convinced that the Orioles are a team that's going to be selling, Bob, to be honest with you. Like, I look at their schedule, what's coming up, right? And here's where they're at coming up in the next few days. So they got a 6-game homestand coming with Texas, who's also struggling, and then Tampa, who's one of the teams that they're chasing, and then they go to play Texas again, and then the Braves, who are another struggling team, and then the Mets and the Marlins after that. Like, it's not a brutal schedule.
Yeah. It should have won that series against the Yankees. They had a game. They had a lead late yesterday, and they would have won 2 out of 3, and then they did what they do.
Yeah.
And then in the National League, we know how competitive it is, and I think there's probably 3 or 4 teams in the NL that might be on the outside looking in that would be playoff teams in the American League. But look, the Brewers, the Cardinals, the Reds, they're all over 500. Are all 3 of them going to be in at the deadline, or at least stand pat? How did the Diamondbacks proceed? They're game over. They're in the mix. They're a team that people felt like might compete at the start of the season. How do they play things as they get to the deadline? The point being, in the NL, the slam dunk teams that are not in it are the Nationals, the Marlins, the Pirates, and the Rockies. There's 4 teams.
Yeah. Yeah. And
So when you talk about a trade
the
market,
American League gets the A's and the White Sox, and that's it. So you got 6 teams right now that you could sit there and say, okay, well, we could find somebody on those 6 teams, maybe. But who's the other teams?
Yeah.
And Steve mentions this, and this is something you brought up in a via text before, but I'm going to poo-poo it. Do you bring back
Yeah.
And it's not that I wouldn't, because I like Andrew McCutchen, and I think that if I was looking for a platoon left fielder for a World Series run, like I would have no problem with that. Problem is I think he wants to retire in Pittsburgh. I think that it's pretty much set that he's just going to close it out this year and that's it, and he goes off into the sunset. I don't think he gets moved. So that's the only reason why I say no. Not because I don't like him, because I just don't think that he's going to get traded. I don't think he wants to get traded. I don't think the Pirates want to trade him. I think they're going to have like a farewell kind of thing for him, and that's it.
I have one other question about, since we're talking about McCutchen, some people might be listening to this or watching this, and they say you have a solution. You have a platoon solution with Kepler in left field. It's Otto Kemp. Come on, guys. I don't know what to make of this. We're 50 at-bats in. He's hitting 260. We saw a lot of home run power down in AAA. It has not translated up here yet in terms of home runs, but he's just missed about like 4 of them.
Right.
So, different day, different park, different wind pattern. We might be looking at a guy that's got 4 home runs and 50 at-bats right now, and he has none. So, like, I live in reality. I live in what has happened. But is he showing enough where the Phillies could at least think about this and say, defensively, it's not great with him being in left field, but we could make that work, and that would be enough for us in left field?
What if I tell you, Bob, here's the thing that I have found the most intriguing about Otto Kemp. He's not part of a platoon. Otto Kemp is in the lineup every game.
Yes.
If it's against a lefty, he's playing left field. If it's against a righty, he's playing first base. They view Otto Kemp as an everyday player, whereas they don't view Max Kepler as an everyday player. So while you're waiting for Bryce Harper to come back, this little shift back and forth between first base and left field is fine. When Harper comes back, is he going to be an everyday left fielder? Like, I think there's more of a possibility of that than there is of him being a platoon.
So you think there's a world where in the second half of the season, he is their primary left fielder?
There's a world. I'm not promising it. I'm not saying it's a guarantee. None of that. There's a lot of things that can happen between now and then. But why is he, if he's not an everyday player, why is he playing as an everyday player when other guys are sitting on the bench?
Is there any world in which that's my thing today. Is there any world in which he can stand at second base and not destroy you?
They said no. Somebody, Rob said no. Not that the question was asked that directly. But he was, there was a question that was asked of, hey, Otto's played some second in the minors. Is that a position you would think about maybe playing him? He goes, well, we got Sosa there. So on the days that you're not playing Stott, Sosa's going to play second. So I don't think so. No.
Do you think he's due to get on another one of his runs? Do you think the Phillies are going to kind of ride the Sosa wave here against left-handed pitching in the short term again?
Yeah, because Bryson's not hitting. So sure. I do. The only lefty who I think has a chance to get some opportunities against lefties because of the way he's hitting is Marsh. I think that they're going to continue this platoon predominantly in left field and second base.
All right. I have one other thing I wanted to talk about real quick.
I hope it's the pitcher from yesterday because
I do want to talk. That's fine. I just, while we're poking around on the offense though.
Yeah.
Let's go over to third base. I want to talk about Alec Bohm, and I want you to give me your assessment because I've done this. Somebody said to me, tweeted at me a couple days ago and said, like, you have a thing for Bohm, that you don't like Bohm. And it's very obvious when I watch your show. And I'm like, okay, like I don't think he's not what I would want in a third baseman. Just not. Full transparency. But I'm also not a total moron, and I'm willing to acknowledge when there are lots of good things happening. And the fact that he's up to 290 after where he started the season, super positive. You look at the consistency. Last 30 games, 328. This 362 on base percentage. Last 15 games, 350 with a 385 on base percentage. Last 7 games, 357, 387 on base percentage. He's been good. He's gotten some big hits. He started to drive in some runs recently. I still stand back and say he's as a career 742 OPS, and he is actually under that this season. So while he is hitting 290, he has a 734 OPS. And I'm like, while I acknowledge that he's been productive and he's helping this team win games, and I'm happy for him because I don't have anything personal against him. And certainly there are guys that you would be critical of offensively well before him. The whole thing, right? Like all the acknowledgments, I see a lot of people out there taking victory laps for Alec Boehm, and he has a 734 OPS. And so, like, I need you to tell me that I'm just not seeing this correctly and that there's a lot more to him than I'm giving him credit for. Like, I'm being serious. Like, what is not computing for me as everybody is like, wow, Alec Boehm?
I don't know if I can answer that, Bob, because I may not be as critical of him as you are, but I also am underwhelmed by him as an everyday third baseman. So for what it's worth, I mean, you know, do I think that the Phillies should just move on from Alec Boehm and oh my God, I can't believe that they kept this guy around? Whatever. No, I'm not going that far. But at the same time, I look at it and go, the things that he should be good at, he's not good at. He's a singles hitter and a good singles hitter. Doesn't walk enough to be a singles hitter. Should be a better doubles hitter. We saw it for half a season last year, but that's dried up.
Yeah, he hit 44 doubles last year. He has 11. He's on pace for 23.
23, yeah. I mean, and then he should have more power. Doesn't have more power. So, like as well as he's hitting, we can't just look at the batting average and go, "Oh, see, good. This is what we're talking about. He's a great third base." No.
Well, I think what kind of gets me is like if he hits 330 the rest of the year, it works because he ends up 760, 770 OPS even without the doubles. But you're going to have to hit 330 just to make it work. Like, I mean,
yeah,
he's 290 this year with a 328 on base percentage. He's walked 15 times in 314 plate appearances.
Can I? I'll make a comparison for you for the way he hits compared to Bill Miller. You remember Bill Miller?
Yeah.
Right? Bill Miller was a third baseman, had no power, used to hit over 300 constantly, you know, mostly singles. Are you good with Bill Miller as your third baseman? I mean, he's fine, right? I mean, Alec Boehm's fine. He's okay, but he's not more than that. And you would want more than that out of a player with his, you know, where he was drafted, what your expectation is. You just want more. He always just leaves you just a little bit, you know, desiring a little bit more productivity out of him offensively. That doesn't make him a bad player. It doesn't. And that's why I'm not as super critical of him.
Yeah, and I'm not like I'm not sitting here going like, oh, see, wait and see. He's going to go through a 3-week stretch where he hits 114. Like, and he might. That's okay. Like, people, you know, things happen. I think, like, in a way, though, the weird thing for me is that some of my criticism is highlighted in how successful he's been. It's like you're hitting 330, 320 for 2, 3, 4, or 5 weeks, and the numbers like still don't pop. Like, anybody that listens to the show knows that I'm like Mr. OPS. Like, that to me is how I'm going to evaluate a player.
Yeah.
You know, that's just how I'm going to evaluate a player. I'm like 734.
It's league average. 734 is league average.
I heard someone call the morning show on WIP the other day and was like, you know, people wanted to run this guy out of town. He's a borderline all-star. And I'm like, borderline all-star? I don't know, man. I don't know.
No, I'm looking it up right now.
I want like someone to make like you did not do it, and you got to say how you feel. But I'm sorry. I'd like someone to come on here and be like, Bob, here's the deal, buddy. Like this is what you fail to see.
He's above league average. 734 is above league average.
Okay.
League average is
what's league average OPS right now? Like 712, somewhere in there.
715.
715. Okay.
715.
Yeah, his OPS plus is 101.
Yeah, which is 1% better than the average third baseman in baseball.
And he's been hitting 357 for 30 days.
Yeah. By the way, I love the fact that I make a vague reference to a player from the 90s, and King Alfred's U.S. descendant says, hey, Miller did hit a walk-off against Mariano Rivera in 2004 at Fenway. I would have been at the game, but I had to go to a wedding.
Yeah, actually, it was. I think I mentioned that on the show recently. I watched that 3-part Netflix documentary, and he was a part of that. So it was actually a good player.
Yeah, no, he was a good player.
All right, you want to get to the pitcher? Go ahead.
The thing that I like about Jesus Luzardo, and I feel like it really solidified for me yesterday, was the guy's got onions, right? I mean, he shoves against really good competition. 1 earned run in 4 starts this year against the Dodgers, Cubs, and Mets. 1 earned run, 30 strikeouts in 25 and a third innings. Like, that's something. And then it really hits you when he's facing Soto. Now, I get it that they have a relationship, right? Mm-hmm. They were in rookie ball together with the Nationals back, in the 2016-ish time frame. Soto goes up there second. He first at bat hits a hard fly ball, line drive, right field, makes it out. Okay, second at bat comes up and draws a walk. First of all, he squares around. Soto starts doing his mind games. Squares around the bunt. Luzardo comes back with a pitch up and in. Soto kind of, dances out of the way. Then the next 2 pitches, which were not all that close to Soto's body, he's still doing the matrix move to get out of the box, right? And he's doing all his histrionics. Third at bat, Luzardo comes out there and challenges him with fastballs and blows him away. And surprises him. And Soto's smiling at him, and he's pounding his glove back at him, like, let's go, boy. Let's go, right? And there's something about that tells you this guy's got a little something extra in there that come October, when these games are going to matter, he's going to be a guy that's going to get up for those games at a level maybe even above what he's giving you.
All right. So all that being said, you probably envision him then as a starter in a hypothetical postseason series.
I didn't say that. I didn't say that because
I watched that Soto at bat and said that would look good with 2 runners on and 2 outs in the 7th inning against a team that's left-handed hitter.
Yes, it would. Yes, it would. And we're all trying to figure out who of the 3 lefties, which of the 3 is going to end up in the bullpen, right? We've seen it from Suarez before. We know Sanchez's stuff would play nicely in the bullpen. But I'm thinking that those 2 guys, assuming Ranger continues to pitch as well as he's pitched and he's healthy, I think those 2 guys stay in the rotation, and Jesus Luzardo might be the guy that comes out of the bullpen.
Yeah. I kind of feel that way too.
Yeah.
Tim Kelly last night tweets, and 145 people liked it, and most people agreed with the sentiment. And of course, there's always the guy that's like, dude, stop, you're a moron. But he says Jesus Luzardo's ERA is at 4.08 because of the 2 awful starts. But among National League starters, he's top 5 in strikeouts per 9, 10.36, by the way. FIP 2.77 and wins above replacement 2.6. It will be interesting to see if the 2 terrible outings prevent him from being an all-star. You and I argued about this a few weeks ago. I said, nope, that's over. That ship has sailed. Do you think he has an all-star case? Actually, I know you think he has an all-star case. Is there any chance that he actually gets in, given where his ERA and some of the other numbers are at?
No, I don't think he gets in. And I think that we had that conversation after the Milwaukee game.
Yeah.
It was when we had the conversation. Then he went out and got smoked by Toronto the next game, and I said, probably does it. And I also don't think he had a great game against the Marlins. It wasn't obviously as bad as those other two.
No, I was not. I think I had texted you that. I was like, ooh, this doesn't look great.
It wasn't great. It wasn't a great start either. So, he's made 16 starts this year. 13 have been very good. 1 has been meh, and 2 have been flat out disasters. In a normal year, should that be enough to get you into an all-star spot? Yeah, but when you have 3 other starting pitchers on your team who are probably ahead of you in that all-star selection process, it probably leaves you off. And I think that Wheeler is going to get in. I think Suarez is kind of pitching his way in. And I think Sanchez is a borderline, but maybe gets in as one of those, this guy isn't pitching, so he gets added kind of starts. And I think that's it. I don't think that they take 4 starters in the Phillies.
Yeah, I'm with you. Before we get to one last thing,
I
was named in a tweet here. Someone says, like, this guy hasn't posted about the Flyers in like 3 weeks. They just made a huge trade. Do you care to comment on the Flyers trade today?
I haven't posted in 3 weeks.
This guy
is that what he said?
Here we go. It's our show. Your tweet of our show being live.
Yeah.
And guy says, Flyers did a thing today, ASF. And then this other guy says, dude, it's so weird. Not one tweet, LOL. He goes weeks without saying anything about this team, it feels like.
Weeks. I would say to these people who are looking at this to go back through my timeline. Now, today, to be honest with this one, I was in the middle. So I have other journalistic responsibilities besides just covering sports. I am the managing editor for a news site that also owns On Pattison, right?
It's hot outside. Let's get it back to the Flyers.
Yeah, but I'm saying, so like, funny story is I had a sit down interview, and I'm not going to say with who, but this has nothing to do with sports, but in Philadelphia this morning for the better part of 2 hours. And I was in the middle of this interview. I'm recording it on my phone. So I have my phone down on the table where I'm talking to this gentleman for 2 hours. And my phone is down. And the only way I know that something is happening in the world that I need to know about is my watch is going off crazy. Like I'm getting buzzed every 5 seconds. So now I know something either happened in the world of sports or somebody in my family got into an accident or something. Like one of those 2 things happened, right? And so I'm sitting there and I'm just hoping that this interview gets over with so I can figure it out. By the time the interview was over, the Flyers had already put a press release out about the trade and everything else. It's like, all right, do I need to confirm it now? Like the Flyers put it out. Like I don't need to confirm it now.
Can confirm.
So yeah. But anyway, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? It just so happens. Like if that story was going to break an hour earlier, I would have had it. But the fact that it happened when it did, by the time I got to it, it was like there's no reason for me to tweet about it. So
allow me to make a prediction on one last thing. Did you see the Coastal Carolina manager and first base coach getting tossed in the first inning of Game 2 of the College World Series for arguing balls and strikes and being suspended for the next game, which is now next season? Was that going to be today's one last thing?
No, it wasn't.
You can't throw that guy out in that spot.
Like, no, you cannot.
It's a disgrace.
It was awful. It was a disgrace. We already did College World Series as a one last thing, so I didn't want to go back to it. Fine. But I agree. It was an absolute disgrace to throw that manager out. And the first base coach, too, if I'm not mistaken, right? Yeah. Also got tossed at the same. Like, you can't do that.
In high school and college baseball, the top assistants get treated like, like you're not even supposed to be in the dugout. You get to say nothing.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a shame. It's a real shame that umpires take that kind of control. It bothered me. It definitely bothered me. But I figured I didn't want to go College World Series for the second time in a week.
Okay, so, go ahead.
Here's the one last thing. 65. You know what that is, Bob? 65?
I don't.
What if I told you that is the pace that Cal Raleigh is on for home runs this season?
The big dumper.
Holy this guy, every game is now must-watch television. Like, It's crazy how many home runs he's hitting now. He's up to 31. He has shattered the record for home runs by a catcher before the All-Star break. Johnny Bench had the record, was 28. He's at 31, and we still got a week and a half before the All-Star break. Is he going to get into the 60s? Is the one last thing. I mean, I think he will, assuming he doesn't get hurt. But the notion of a catcher even hitting 50 home runs because they don't play every game, I am just blown away. This is one of the more impressive runs by a baseball player that I've seen in my time watching this sport because of his position.
It's amazing. You're right. It is must see. And I feel like he's a guy that you're just now starting to see kind of hit the mainstream. It's like when he crossed over 25, I think people were like, wow, this might be a 50 home run year from a catcher and legit, you know?
Yeah.
But what's so weird about it is if you look at his numbers, it's not like he's always hit home runs, but not like this. I mean, 27 in 2022, 30 in 23, 34, 30, and 31 this year.
Yeah.
I mean, he is not cracked in any season an 800 OPS. And this year he's 1.042, and he's on pace for 63 home runs, 64 home runs right now.
I think it was 65. I thought it was 60.
65? Okay. I mean,
yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, I mean,
part of the reason it's gone under the radar is because it's the Mariners.
Yeah, and secondly, he as great of a season as he's having. You mentioned the 1.042 OPS, which is eye-popping and astronomical. He's not even in the conversation for MVP of the American League. That's how good Aaron Judge's season has been.
Yeah.
So I just tell people, if you have the opportunity to watch the Mariners, if you have wherever you are, if you can pull up a Mariners game, if you have the baseball package, you don't stay up late to watch the Mariners, tune in just to watch Cal Raleigh. The one thing I can tell you that I like about what the Mariners do is they keep him in the lineup regardless. He may not catch every game. He's going to be their DH when he's not catching. He's in the lineup. So he's got a shot at breaking some American League records at the very least.
You don't even have to stay up late tonight to watch him. He's in Minnesota tonight playing the Twins.
There you go.
So there you go.
There you go.
All right.
Yeah. So, yeah, good stuff. Good stuff. Well, okay, good episode, Bob.
Solid. Not a lot of ranting and raving today, but it's okay.
You can't rant and rave when the team's in first place and half game out of the best record of the National League, game and a half out of the best record in baseball, considering where they were. Look, they were 13-13 on April 25th. Since then, they have the best record in all of Major League Baseball, and that's almost 2 months over the last 2 months.
One thing I have before we leave, it's like a little morsel of wisdom for the people.
Yeah.
I'm tired of hearing about how like the Phillies are too inconsistent. You can say whatever you want about the Phillies. Like, okay, I'm with you. I hear like we talk about all these flaws all the time, right? Every team is inconsistent. What team is scoring 5 runs a night every night? Yeah. What team is winning 5 out of every 7 games every week? It's an ebb and flow sport. Like, I get stuff wrong all the time, and I think I know something, and as soon as I do, the opposite happens, right? Like, that's what we were talking about at the beginning of the show, like being on this run of being a mush. But do we just not know how to process 162 games? Is that really all it comes down to?
No.
Yes, they are inconsistent. That is baseball.
Yeah.
What team are you following this year that you're like, wow, this is a model of consistency?
No, I've said it before. People don't follow the rest of the sport. That's the problem, right? So I'll give you a perfect example. I'm listening to WIP today on my drive back from that interview that I was at, right? And I got WIP on, and they're sitting there going, yeah, but the one thing about the Phillies offense is where how do they do it runners in scoring position? And then they looked it up and they're like, oh, wait, they're 7th in baseball in runners in scoring. Yeah. Well, really? That's impossible. I'm like, no, it's possible because you don't watch the rest of the league.
Yeah, because the rest of the league's not hitting 400 with runners in scoring position.
Like, it's what it is, right? Yeah. So that's the thing. It's not about having a process, not being able to process 162 games. Maybe it is a little bit. I mean, I guess maybe we have too much of that football mentality where instant gratification. It's got to be that, the one each game, you're thinking too much about one game. But I think more so it is lack of paying attention to the rest of the sport. And I think that's, you look at the standings and that's all you look at. You don't really dive into it like we do. So,
and then here you go. Did we talk about this? Really struck a chord with people.
Yes, it did.
I had just had a couple beers and I was like, get this guy off my timeline. And there's all these people are like, I agree. Or these people are like, you don't get it. He's awesome. I'm like, he might be. I don't know. Yeah, we did talk about that.
There's no middle ground, right? It's either you like the guy, either you like the shtick or you hate the shtick. One or the other.
There is no middle ground. Yes,
there is no middle ground with the guy. So it's all good. It's all good.
All right, get us out of here. I got to go back to work.
Yeah. Well, hey, by the way, just because I've been on a roll again, not only have I picked the series correct, like 3 in a row now, but I've given you the actual losses along the way. So I guess I got to go one more here.
Give the people what they want.
Phillies are going to lose 2 out of 3 in Houston.
I agree. I agree with you.
They're going to lose 2 out of 3, and I think that they lose the next 2. As a matter of fact, right? No. When's Wheeler go? Wheeler goes the middle game, right?
Yeah.
All right, so they win the Wheeler game. That's the game I think they win.
So it's Hunter Brown, I believe, is the 3rd starter for the Astros in the series. It's
Framber Valdez in the start. Yeah. So the Phillies will win the middle game and lose the 2 on either side.
Okay.
So lose 2 out of 3 to the Astros. All right, now I'll get us out of here. So thank you for tuning into today's episode of Phightin Words, which, as always, you can follow by subscribing to us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, Pandora, wherever you get your podcasts. But we prefer that you do it right here on YouTube. And click the thumbs up, ring the bell. You'll be alerted every time that we have a show, except for when Russ forgets to schedule it. And we get people commenting for 3 hours wondering, well, when is the show going to start? Because Russ didn't put a scheduled start time. Thanks to Russ for that today. But if you're not on YouTube and you're just listening in the podcast, you'd say, hey, you know what? I want to check out the show on YouTube. The best way to do that is to go to youtube.com/@Phightin Words. For Bob Wankel, I'm Anthony SanFilippo saying have a great week. Enjoy the Phillies and Astros, and we will talk to you again on Friday as the Phillies prepare for the Atlanta Braves. Thanks, everyone. Have a great day.